NASCAR at Talladega is done and in the books, and I'll be honest, I really enjoyed this race, which apparently is the minority of what a lot of people thought of Talladega here today. I thought it was a really good race, and I think it was the best race for the next-gen car at Talladega ever so far, maybe even of the super speedways. But anyways, let's go over to the point where a lot of you want to talk about, and that is the finish of the race. First of all, let's start off with NASCAR Overtime Part 1, a hellacious accident in turns 1 and 2 to start the overtime finish. Ross Chastain pushes Noah Gragson out a little bit sideways, comes down, tries to fill in a gap. Gragson comes down, they make contact. Gragson goes up into the wall. Larson spins before getting T-boned by Ryan Preece. And let me tell you, I've never seen an impact that hard when you look at the damage that Kyle Larson received. I mean, the inside bar, the cockpit of the bar was bent in a way I've never seen it before in my entire life. Also, there was an in-car camera shot of Ryan Preece. I don't believe I have this, but you can tell he was not prepared for this. So when Larson came back up, Preece gassed it at the last second to try and avoid him, and Preece was clearly not ready for it. When you see the in-car camera, I mean, his visor flew up, and the way his face kind of like, quinched, you could tell that he was in pain when he hit Larson. Luckily, he hit Larson on the passenger side and not on the driver's side, but that was a very scary impact to see the cockpit bar actually bent the way it did. And luckily both drivers, and including Noah Gragson, were okay. But let's go over to overtime part 2. We go into overtime. Kyle Busch gets pushed out ahead of Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, and Martin Truex Jr. on the outside lane. The inside lane can't form very well with Ryan Blaney, Aric Almirola, and that is the 16 car, I should say, of AJ Allmendinger. Now, clearly, Bubba has a faster car, and he's getting a lot of energy behind from Brad Keselowski. You see the energy starting to form, pushing Kyle Busch all over the place. Busch real sideways, getting pushed from Bubba Wallace. Bubba pushes Busch out to a large lead and then stalls out. But then on the outside lane, Aric Almirola, he runs out of fuel. Now Bubba's going to get a big push from Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney coming to the white flag. Busch left out to dry. Bubba comes down low, comes back up top, goes to the lead, coming to the final lap. And this time he had his best buddy, Ryan Blaney, behind him as they come to the start finish line to take the white flag. But going to turn number 1, Blaney wanted to make his move, comes on low, Bubba blocks, then Blaney comes up top, Bubba blocks again. One block too many, goes sideways, slams into Keselowski, creates a massive pileup behind, and Kyle Busch was out in front when the caution flew to win at Talladega for the second time in his career. The first time that he won, he had to go all the way back to 2008 for his 62nd career Cup Series win overall and his second win of 2023. You look at all the carnage. AJ Allmendinger totaling bents, driving sideways. Martin Truex Jr. also destroyed. A massive accident to end a pretty chaotic way for NASCAR racing here at Talladega. Here's a look at the unofficial results. Kyle Busch wins, goes back to victory lane for the second time this year. Ryan Blaney in second. Chris Buescher in third. Chase Briscoe, how about that? 4th place finish after he was involved in the first caution of the day, the first natural caution of the day, when he spun by himself on pit road, and he had a flat tire and ended up getting stuck on pit road, went a lap down or two, and actually came back to finish inside the top 5. Brad Keselowski, even with that crash, still came home in 5th at the moment of caution. He was outside the top 30 for a good portion of the day, so great run for him. Erik Jones, quiet 6th place finish for him, as well as William Byron, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, and how about Todd Gillen, another top 10 finish for him in that team. Got replaced by Zane Smith to drive the 36 car this weekend. Nice run for him. And JJ Yeley for Rick Ware Racing in 11th place. Chase Elliott, 12th. Tyler Reddick, another driver, 13th place finish after he was involved in another crash on pit road. He spun by himself and actually smacked the inside pit lane wall. For him to finish in 13th place, I consider that a win. Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman rounds out the top 15, and some of the other drivers that were caught up in earlier crashes. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ty Dillon, Justin Haley, BJ McLeod, and Aric Almirola, the top 20. Ross Chastain, after that contact with Gragson, 23rd. All these other drivers also, not only were they either caught up in crashes, but they also were low or ran out of fuel. Like, for example, Ty Gibbs, he finished 31st after he ran out of fuel on the first overtime or first or second overtime finish, just as they were about to take the green flag. And you see Bubba Wallace finishing in 28th. Joe Logano finished in 30th after he was caught up in a crash with around 5 or so laps ago, got tapped from Corey LaJoie, sent Logano sideways and into the outside wall. And then you see Harrison Burton, Zane Smith, and Austin Dillon. They were caught up in a crash earlier in the race when Harrison Burton got tapped from Noah Gragson, sent him sideways, and then Zane Smith just got slammed into by Joe Logano, sends him around, as well as Austin Dillon, and they both crash and end up finishing in the last two positions. So this race, again, there's still issues with this next gen car and the fact that of these 2x2 racing, but it was possible to form a third lane. It was possible. We did see it. Bubba Wallace even took the lead at some point during the middle of the race by taking advantage of a third lane being brought up. So it is possible for a third lane to happen. And I think the issue with it is part because of the next gen package. I don't think the next gen package is that great. I think some things need to be worked on. You need to be less drag in the car. But I also think it's because the drivers are too conservative. Because if you want to make a third lane, it's possible. We saw for a good portion of the race some three-wide racing. It's just drivers needed to be more aggressive. So I don't think all the blame can be put on the package. Sure, the package can be much better, but I think it was also the drivers just not wanting to take the risk. Now, there's a lot of people that were talking about Bubba's move on the final lap. The way I look at it as this, they're saying that Bubba threw the race. Bubba, that was stupid what Bubba did. I would argue that's racing. I'd argue that Bubba had to make these blocks because Blaney was sure as hell, especially on the final lap, and how difficult it is to create runs with the next gen car, I should say. There's no way Blaney was going to wait. He tried to make a move to the inside. And then he tried to make a move to the outside. He was clearly going to get by Bubba. He was clearly not going to wait till the final lap. So I think Bubba had to make those blocks. He had to if he wanted to have a shot at keeping Blaney behind. Now, there are some people that are saying that he had Kyle Busch on the inside. He could have just stuck with him. Again, I'd argue that that probably would not have worked also, because they already scrubbed so much speed. Bubba and Blaney already scrubbed so much speed. Kyle Busch was getting a big push from Brad Keselowski right behind him that if Bubba stayed down, Kyle would have just gone around him on the outside and Keselowski maybe would have gone with him. So I think regardless, Bubba was screwed. When he made that first block on Blaney and got sideways and was able to save it, he was done for. Because if he would have moved up, Blaney would have found a way to gone around him, or he would have wrecked. Or if he would have stayed down on the bottom, Busch would have gone around him. Or an option C or an option D, what happened with Blaney and Bubba, what the same thing that happened with Blaney and Bubba and Kyle. Just different drivers. So the way I look at it, I think Bubba was just screwed regardless. I know there's some drivers or some people going to push Bubba for certain reasons, but I think that was just Talladega racing. I think Bubba did what he had to do, Blaney did what he had to do, and it's just Talladega. That's really all I can say about that. Did Bubba cause the crash? Yes, absolutely, he caused it, but I also think it's just Talladega racing. I'm pretty sure we saw Chase Elliott do it at Daytona last year or a couple years ago. I mean, we've seen drivers do this so many times. It's almost part of, hey, that's Talladega for you. I did find it weird, though, that the Fox broadcast team kept the camera on Bubba the entire time. That was a little bit weird because even when Kyle Busch was being interviewed, they kept the camera on Bubba, even though Bubba was not doing anything. He did throw his Hounds of Ice down, which people are complaining about that for some reason. But outside of that, Bubba didn't do anything else. And there was still a camera following him, I guess because they tried to get him to do something, but wasn't giving them any type of entertainment, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the backlash for this race because I thought it was a fun race. Especially stage 3. I was on the edge of my seat. There was a lot of excitement in stage 3. Again, at least for me. But I feel like I'm in the minority standpoint because if you look on social media, there's a lot of fans that are not happy. The only worry that I do have is that contact with Preece and Larson. That hit that Larson took on the passenger side, the way that cockpit bent worries me a little bit and makes me wonder, what if it was on the driver's side? So I'm so glad that it was only on the passenger side, but I don't know, man. These next gen cars, they're another story, another can of worms to talk about. I don't know. I give this race probably like a 7.5 out of 10. The overtime was a little bit. I don't know. I give this race. It was a solid. I think a 7.5, maybe 8. I thought it was solid. I don't know. Maybe I give this race a 7.5 out of 10. Because I'll be honest. Yes, stage 1, it was just 2x2. Nothing happened. Okay. But near the end, or stage 1, I should say, was a lot of 2x2. But near the end of stage 2 and stage 3 were really exciting, I think, and it was typical Talladega. At least I thought. So maybe I'm in the minority, but I enjoyed this race. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I'm ashamed Bubba got caught up in it, but it's also Talladega racing. He drove a great race. But yeah, I don't have much to complain about it, except for, yes, we do need to make some adjustments to the next gen package. Need less drag on the car, need to have bigger runs. Issues with the safety wise with that cockpit bar being bent. I don't know. I'm still can't get over that. That worries me a little bit because of obviously what if it was driver's side instead of passenger side. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this race? Did you like it? Did you not? Kyle Busch, I mean, I think he led one lap, came out of nowhere. He was actually even in a position to maybe even run out of fuel because they went to a second NASCAR overtime, because near the end of the race, a lot of drivers were on fuel strategy. So it was very close for some to make it on fuel. Gibbs ran out of gas. Almirola either ran out of gas or had a flat tire. But Busch was just at the right place at the right time and comes home victorious. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thanks for watching.